Durham Region, welcome back to another video. You're going to notice a couple things different about the setup today. No sign behind me and no mattress/bed. That's because I'm recording from my brand new basement office at my place. So get used to this setup. Not quite like this. Going to try and decorate it up a little bit going forward. I hope the sound is okay today, so please let me know in the comments what you're thinking about that. Want to get right into everything today as we usually do. All of our price numbers. As you can see from the thumbnails, I want to compare this August, pretty slow month, to historical Augusts, some trends that I'm seeing. But as always, let's get right into things with our mortgage rates. Not much to see here in terms of changes. Nobody has changed their posted variable rates in this column or fixed rates in this column over here. One thing that has happened since last time I recorded and brought some info to you was we had a couple inflation readings come out, one in the States, one in Canada. What we saw in Canada, reduction in inflation rate overall from month to month. So we are at 8.1 for June inflation down to 7.6 for July. What they're not talking about as much is that core inflation was actually up. So that's kind of removing some of the components that are a little more volatile. It's removing, gasoline, energy, vegetables, things along these lines that really do swing in prices a lot and affect inflation. So because that core inflation is still up, the chances of a higher rate increase happening in September have increased. So what we are expecting is that back to this column over here, our variable rates, we will see these increase. And in some cases, depending on what's happening with fixed rates, we'll get pretty close to what the fixed rates are at sometime in September. On to our detached median sale prices. So this past week, which we are talking August 7th to 13th this week, Pickering 1.07 million, Ajax 1.15 million, Whitby 1.1 million, and Oshawa at $767,500. And you can see what that has done to the 5-week rolling averages. Kind of like we talked about last week, Whitby, Ajax haven't moved too much going back to end of May, beginning of June in terms of their median sale prices. Whereas Pickering, we saw a bit of a bounce back and then more of a drop off recently. And then Oshawa, same thing, just trending downwards, I would say, pretty consistently even from end of February, beginning of March. Now, these sales totals will give you an idea of how volatile those median prices were on the last page. So again, that median price for Pickering, Ajax was only based on 9 and 11 sales total. Whitby, a slightly bigger sample size for the week at 21 sales total, and Oshawa had 32, giving us kind of the biggest sample size. But I think that's why it's important to look at that 5-week rolling averages so we can get a bigger sample of properties going on. So as you can see, Oshawa is still the busiest market on the detached side with just under 35 sales per week on average. Whitby at around 21, Ajax at 14, and Pickering at almost 11 sales per week over the last 5 weeks. Now here's a comparison I wanted to run everybody through just to show you kind of how August is stacking up against July and then how August ranks against all the other Augusts in the last 10 years. So you can see for Pickering, Ajax, Whitby, and Oshawa, our sales totals for July 2022. And this is for all property types. And when I say all property types, I'm not including commercial properties, just condos and freehold properties. So 90 sales, 96 sales, 130 in Whitby, and 212 in Oshawa. Based on our rate of sales up until kind of end of day August 16th, you can see where we stand August 2022 so far and what we're projecting, assuming that this rate of sales keeps up for the rest of the month. What usually happens in August is as we get closer to the long weekend, maybe people will back off or take off, my apologies, a little sooner and make that those last couple days pretty slow. We'll see what happens this year with Labor Day being a little bit later, I guess. It's truly in September, so maybe people will hang out for all of August this year. But assuming that the rate of sales keeps up as it is, we are looking to have a pullback in sales compared to last year in Pickering and in Ajax. Pickering, a slight pullback of only 5, I wouldn't consider that very significant. Ajax, the pace is significantly slower, I would say, than it was in July of 2022. Whitby is actually on track for an uptick in sales from August to July, which is not something you see very often. I think that hasn't really happened too many times over the last 10 years. And Oshawa, same thing. We'll call this trading sideways. What I did is I looked at the August for the last 10 years. So this is going back to 2012. This would technically be year 11. And it's just fitting with our theme of the historically slow summer that we've seen. So Pickering, Whitby, and Oshawa all rating 9th out of the last 10 years, whereas Ajax is actually on track to have the slowest August going back to when I see data for, which is 2012. Something significant to consider here is that these are not even population adjusted numbers. These are just straight numbers. So we have clearly seen population growth right across the region going back to 2010. So if you were to look at these numbers per capita, I think it's going to easily be the slowest months per capita that we're seeing. But in just total numbers, it's still pretty, I wouldn't call it shocking because it's not too surprising what we're seeing now at this point anymore. We've been talking about it for months and months and months now, but it just shows you the significance of how slow August 2022 has been on the sale side. Don't want to spend too much time on our listing days on market. Just want to show you that the trend is continuing upwards. Now, this is a chart that I know we don't usually put too much emphasis on. And as you can see, the trend is things are still slowing down in terms of new listings. Yes, it looks like kind of week to week. Ajax had a bit of a sideways move, everybody else went downwards. But what I want to keep an eye on is this chart going into September, because you can't find an example in the last few years where we didn't have more listings in September than we had in August. So I'm expecting to see this start to shift. Because we do the 5-week rolling averages, it might take a little longer. We might not see that trend until, middle of September, end of September, but expect to see listings pick up. And when listings pick up, with a rate increase coming, if buyer demand stays the same or decreases more because buyer sentiment is just shot by these rate increases, by everybody's feeling it at the pumps, feeling it at the grocery store, expect prices to come down in the next little bit of time, assuming we get a flood of inventory. If inventory is slower to pick up, we may see just a slight decrease in prices and more of a sideways trade for the rest of the year. But that's just something to keep an eye on going into the next month. A quick recap of our prices for the other market segments. So starting with the townhome median sale prices, again, small sale counts going on around here, but it's interesting to see how bunched up everybody is, with Oshawa, some higher end townhomes selling more recently in Oshawa and actually bringing them up kind of in line with what we're seeing with everybody else. Yes, Ajax saw a bit of a spike in the 5-week rolling averages, but you can see here that everybody's bunched pretty tightly together on the townhome side. Our semi-detached homes that we're looking at now, the biggest market segment for semis in Durham Region, at least in the 4 places that we cover, is Oshawa. And you can see the trend is a pretty steady trend downwards ever since the peak of the market back in February. And lastly, our condos. I want you to focus on the black line and the blue line because those are our 2 biggest condo segments as well. Prices still trending downwards. And just the same as everywhere else, Pickering, Ajax, and Whitby kind of lumped in a little closer together than we're seeing with Oshawa. Our last couple charts that we're going to look at now are our showings per new listing and offers per new listing. And what I've done is, I know we talked about last week how there's some shocking numbers from Whitby in terms of the number of offers we were getting, and we're expecting it to come down a little bit this week. But starting with showings, I've done where were we at this week for the month, where were we at last week for the month, and where were we at last month. So it's a lot of last weeks, last month, all that stuff. But Pickering with a slight uptick in showings per new listing, Ajax with an even bigger uptick in showings per new listing, whereas Whitby is down slightly, and Oshawa, we'll call it, is trading fairly sideways with a slight downturn in showings per new listing. And how about our offers per new listing? So again, this is one I wanted to highlight. Pickering saw a slowdown in activity over this past week, from going from 0.89 offers per new listing to 0.76. Ajax, a slight bump, like a tiny bump in offers per new listing. Whitby definitely slowed down like we were expecting. That 1.73 number was pretty shocking. It was even higher than we were seeing back in March. Now it's down to 1.38 offers per new listing, and Oshawa traded pretty sideways. I want to compare this chart back to this chart over here though. I'm not going to move myself around anymore at this point in time. I'm going to keep myself in this bottom corner, but I just want to highlight that comparing where we were at last month. So let's pull Ajax, for example. Last month we were getting 0.97 offers per new listing. This month we're getting 0.74 offers per new listing. And you can see that that is the biggest decrease in at least sales projections based on my calculations going forward. Whitby, on the other hand, went from 0.96 offers per new listing up to 1.38 so far this month. And you can see that projections are that they're going to increase the most in projected sales for August 2022. Whereas Pickering and Oshawa Like I said, they've traded relatively sideways, and you can just see how close their offers per new listing hasn't really changed too much from last month to this month. So lots of offers obviously means lots of buyer demand. So I think it's a pretty important number to look at is this one going forward. That's our wrap for this week, August 7th to the 13th. I'll be back again next week with another batch of numbers for you, see how things are trending once again. Please, if you've stuck around for this long, leave me a like. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy getting this content every single week. Turn on those notifications so you don't miss my Durham Region updates, and please share it with a friend who you know is interested in learning more about Durham Region real estate. My goal with this channel is just to keep you informed as a consumer, to kind of let you know early signs I'm seeing of any changes in trends and things along those lines. Once again, leave me a comment below to let me know how's the sound this week, how's the setup. I want to make sure I'm bringing you crystal clear quality every single time. I appreciate you tuning in so much. Please enjoy the rest of your week. Until we speak again, stay safe and cheers.